Let's talk
The big one.
about the big one first. Yeah.
The
This is
big
the one
one.
that we have all been anticipating for months now. Dayseeker have dropped their brand new album, Dark Sun.
I guess heaven really needed you to leave us in that vacant room.
Where to even
Alright.
begin with this?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we all turned around on this album really fast. But initially, we were all a little confused.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
Keep
we've
my mouth
had,
shut. Keep going.
now that we've had the entire month to digest it, I want to say that my assumption is that we have all turned around in agreeing that this is an amazing album.
Yes.
It's a good album.
Okay.
I'll give it somewhere between great and gramazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
This is a
All right.
gramazing album.
So I guess I'll start. My theory about this album is it's well known that this album was written after the passing of Rory's father, and it's dedicated to him. And I feel like my little theory on like the theming of this album is that if the sun is supposed to represent life, the dark sun represents death. And I feel like the lyricism all kind of like hints towards that idea of like as you get older and like you lose control of your body a little bit more type of thing, like the dark sun starts to like swallow you a little bit. Even in a song like Dream State, like how do I live in a dream state where nothing is real when I'm awake type of thing. It's like you're in denial. That actually reminds me of the second theory I had. Like there's like the stages of grief where it's like you have like the trauma and then eventually you reach acceptance and whatnot. I kind of feel like this album is telling that story in a way as well. But this is a brutal fucking album to listen to.
I think every
Lyrically.
song has some sort of interpretation of like death, except Hazel's song.
Yeah, that's the one that represents life.
Yeah.
But this is one of the most depressing albums I have heard in a long time, I think. The streak of songs to end this album, Paper Heart, Crying While You're Dancing, Parallel, and Afterglow, is heart-wrenching, dude. Like,
You could just include parallel in that just because the fucking
mean,
lyric.
well, yeah, I was saying Parallel. as
You
well.
could just say parallel. I mean,
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That was that was one of the songs that some of the lyrics I had written down were from Parallel. I guess heaven really needed you to leave us in that vacant room. Like, fuck, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
I think that this is definitely an album that will never click on first listen
Yeah.
for anybody.
No,
no.
Well,
I'll tell. Okay, I think I should explain what my problem was with it was at the beginning when I first heard it.
mhm.
And firstly, I want to say that I think the singles misrepresented the album.
Yes,
That is true.
wholeheartedly, sonically, maybe not lyrically, but sonically.
Sonically, yes.
Sonically, yes.
I think if Dream State was not a single and maybe say Paper Heart or like one of the slower songs,
Yeah.
if that was not a single, I think that interpretation would be gone because Without You and technically the lyrics of Neon Grave as well could still make the album work. But I think I'm gonna agree. I think all four of the singles kind of in tandem just did not help the album at all.
I think Crying While You're Dancing is okay. I'm talking
no,
about the
I think it's just Dream State because I think Neon Grave was kind of that transition point from Sleep Talk to this album, similar to what I think Guiding Light's going to be for the next Caskets album. I think you need that some sort of jumping off point that's going to get people interested in what's going on.
Yes. That was
Um,
Neon Grave.
Yeah, Neon Grave, and then I think Without Me is probably no, Crying While You're Dancing I think is the better single that represents the album more. Dream State's a good single, but I don't think it should have been. It's because it's a good opener.
Yeah, I don't even think that it should have. Well, I think Dream State's fine as like where it is, but I don't think Neon Grave should be second.
I think the there's the pacing is
It's off.
weird, and
It's
all
off.
the heavy songs are at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're all singles as well. So you're like, okay, this is what the album's gonna sound like,
Mhm.
and then you go into it, and it's not like the singles at all.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just jarring.
Right.
on
And
first listen.
that's why I said that I don't think it's possible to click with this on first listen, because you get 2 songs with uncleans back to back and then never again. Right?
Yeah.
Which it's not a bad thing. It's just, especially if you have previous experience with Dayseeker, like we do, you're expecting them to come back at some point.
Yeah.
And they never do. And I guess it could be one possible interpretation that I found is that like the uncleans represent kind of like a breaking point for him. And that's with his, because Neon Grave is explicitly about, like the whole album is and is dedicated to his father, but Neon Grave is explicitly about, you know, losing his father. And so maybe the uncleans are meant to represent like his father in a way, you know, or the expression or the emotions that he was feeling, that like, oh, I'm angry that he's gone, and then now that anger has disappeared, you know, I'm just left with sadness, which is why the rest of the album is so mellow, you know, kind of like 5 Stages of Grief type of thing. But it's just strange to me to have to, like you said, half the singles have uncleans. It's Dayseeker, we expect uncleans. Then you get to the album and you're sat there waiting for them to come back. And I think that if you go through one and listen to the album, you know what to expect. And you go through on your second listen, your third listen, and that gives you, you're like, okay, I'm not anticipating any more cleans. I can appreciate this for what it is.
Yep.
I'm going to learn to unpack the lyrics and different aspects of the sound, like how I think it's on Homesick, the electronic thing is a repitched sound clip of his daughter laughing, and then you have that kind of tie-in with Hazel's song at the end where he dedicates it to his daughter and everything, and kind of hope in a brighter future when things seem so bleak when his dad died. Like it is a beautiful album. It's just one that I feel like it makes sense as an album lyrically and thematically. Sonically, I don't always get it, because it feels weird to start off with 2 songs that have uncleans and then never do them again. And maybe it represents something, like I said, but at the end of the day, it creates expectations for the rest of the album on that first listen that I can absolutely see why so many people were upset with it, because I was too. I was underwhelmed, and it wasn't until I mean, you know me, right? Like I am all for music without uncleans. That's not the issue. I just, the single set up expectations and it didn't meet them. And it wasn't until I put those expectations aside after my first listen, knowing what I'm going into, that really comes with appreciating this album. So if you listen to this and you didn't like it on your first listen, I would encourage you to listen to it again with a different set of eyes.
This is one of the albums that, more so than almost any other album this year, you need to put in those multiple listens. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Also, sorry if you heard that. I like banged the shit out of my foot on my desk.
Let's say, did you die?
Yeah, it's over.
The
The next album's dedicated to me.
I think for this album, I think it's harder to go back to them separately. Kind of talking about them individually, I think Quicksand is probably my takeaway from this album.
Man, that's interesting to me, because that's my least favorite on the album.
And just because I liked Roy's dynamic with Spencer Stewart, the band Camino. I liked his dynamic with it.
It's a weird crossover too. I didn't expect
it's a very weird crossover, but it makes sense because they both featured on the Bill Murray album, so it's probably around the same time when that happened.
The connecting link.
It didn't make sense. Murray connects all. He is omnipotent. A lot of the songs here, I feel you need to listen to them with the album in mind, and like listening to them with the album as a whole, I think it's hard to go back to these songs individually, which I didn't have a problem with in Sleep Talk.
That's interesting because, well, I agree with like part of that. Like I listened to Dark Sun. I think Dark Sun is my biggest takeaway from non-singles. I listened to that almost exclusively outside the album.
I feel like the general consensus is that Sweep Talk was better.
I won't say better.
It's
you have to be in a
different.
special
It's
mindset
different.
for this.
Yeah.
I think this is a better album than Sleep Talk is.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Sleep Talk has more playlistable songs, like we were talking
Okay,
about. I
that's
think
fair.
that,
That's fair.
as a whole, especially like thematically, this is
Yeah.
a far better album than Sleep Talk ever was.
I still think I prefer Sweep Talk. Has more like standout songs to me. I will give credit for as good as the Embers Glow Into the Color Black is. I hate that I'm putting it in a bad light here, but I enjoy how you can listen to Midnight Eternal on its own, whereas with the Embers Glow you kind of can't. Midnight Eternal functions as its own kind of like softer song, even if it's like an interlude into Dark Sun. And I appreciated that.
Yeah, I want to mention like as well the transition from Parallel to Afterglow.
Yes.
You don't even notice it. It's so good.
It's so crisp. I mean, same with the transition from Midnight Eternal into Dark Sun.
Yeah.
Feels like a Dayseeker guarantee at this point. They just know how to do those smooth transitions, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many songs I want to talk about. I think I'll pick out Paper Heart.
Yeah, that's God, trying to pick out which song's the most depressing and sad on this album is like
It's Parallel.
Is it?
It's Parallel.
Is it? I'm not
say.
fully
For me,
convinced
I
that
think
it
it's
is.
Paper Heart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like is it Parallel or is it Paper Heart? Or is it even Neon Grave?
It could. I would say it could be Parallel because he's just really fucking mad at the world.
It's just a depressing album.
Yeah, I mean it is. Well, it's meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be. There's some situations where you don't have to like pick a least or most favorite type of thing. It's just like it's more about the experience than just like picking out individual songs sometimes. But with that being said, let's talk about Paper Heart. Since I know you wanted to, Jacob.
I feel like is this the softest song on the album?
I would say
I think
so.
it's the best lyrically.
Yeah.
But maybe that's because I like the lyric Paper Heart and because of the All American Rejects.
Paper Heart is the one song from this album that I sent to my mom, and she enjoyed it. And I think that says a lot.
My dad liked Midnight Eternal and Dark Sun. Justin and Derek, what did you show your parents?
I didn't
show them nothing.
I didn't bring any Dayseeker songs to show and tell with my family. That's my bad.
What a shame.
They do like Bad Omens though.
Hey, okay.
My sister likes American Dream Machine. Does that count?
No, we're talking about Dayseeker here, guys.
Yeah, Justin, we're only talking about Dayseeker.
You said Bad Omen.
What do you
Come
mean?
on.
I haven't said anything.
Yeah, but that's in connection because they're touring with.
Yeah, Justin.
Okay, fine.
Fuck you, Justin.
Wow.
Okay, how do we steer this back? I don't feel like there's too much more for us to dissect with this album. I feel like we've said a lot. The last thing that I want to mention is in regard to Afterglow, Hazel's song. When you get that streak of Quicksand, Paper Heart, Crying While You're Dancing in Parallel, all being very soft, minimal guitars, and like calmer drums, for Afterglow to come in as this like inspirational, uplifting ballad, it's so powerful. I feel like there's a lot of albums that will end on a more somber note. I'm thinking of like the I Prevail album from earlier this year that ended with the acoustic song. Sweeping the Sirens ended with the acoustic. I am so glad that they ended with Afterglow because we were saying that like the opening did kind of mislead us, and that it was the only songs that had harsher vocals. But I also feel like Afterglow, it doesn't have any harsh vocals, but it connects back to the opening of the album because it's like the most upbeat guitars and drums that the album has since Without Me and Neon Grave.
Yes.
It feels like it does connect it full circle, even if the harsh vocals aren't there. And I really appreciated that. I feel like that made a significant mark on my feelings towards this album. Afterglow was my favorite song outside of the non-singles. It's the one that I had on repeat the most, just because it did have that more uplifting energy.
I love the delivery on, I guess it's the chorus, right? That quiet song that I can sing to keep you calm, I'll never leave.
Yeah. And the pre-chorus is "Don't forget me when I'm gone, the single greatest thing I've done." Which does kind of connect back to the idea of like life and death and the dark sun, you could say. It's like now he's passing on the theme of this album to his daughter in a way through this song.
Yeah.
So much to say about this album. I feel like that's a good place to end it though.
Real quick. Sorry, I know I just fucking killed your thing. I want to give a big fuck you to anybody that doesn't like this album. Real talk. because I saw
only if they're like complaining because it's not heavy enough.
Yeah. Because I saw a lot of that shit on Twitter. I didn't even hop on r/metalcore. I don't use it that often. I can't imagine what they have to say about it. But this is probably, and the instrumentals, everybody in the band that's not Rory also said that they put a lot into this album, and obviously this means a lot to Rory. And for people to just go on Twitter and tag the band and tag Rory and say, you know, we want this sound back or whatever, like where are the guitars? Like, Rory's dad died and you're complaining that there's not enough breakdowns? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't know. It made me really mad, especially the more I came to appreciate this album, the more I saw people hating on Twitter and like directly reaching out to Rory to tell him that the album sucked. And I was like, I can't imagine being in his shoes and putting my heart and soul into an album celebrating the birth of my daughter and remembering the death of my dad, who I loved, and having people tag me on Twitter telling me that it's not a good album and they don't like the album and this and that for reasons that are just entirely stupid. It made me so mad. So if you're one of those people, fix yourself and check yourself, because this album is incredible. And I think that it is objectively one of the best. Even if you don't love it sonically, if it's not your cup of tea, it is objectively one of the best albums that's come out this year. And I will fight anybody who suggests otherwise. This is a really, really good album that has a lot to say and enjoy if you open your mind and actually take the time to listen to it rather than just listening to it.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah.